Rigaroga here, and you're you. And today, I'm going to try to do something I've never done before again, and see how far I get. Yeah. We're gonna take a look at Micro Chapbook RPG. There's a whole bunch of free stuff that you can download for nothing, and get started right away. There's also some core or deluxe rule books. There's currently 10 scenarios, which are just like pamphlet, standalone, includes the rules, free download games that you can play. There's a mini module, which is sort of a follow up to one of those pamphlet RPGs. And then there's 3 core books. There's the deluxe core book, the deluxe game masters book. What? Hi. Hi, Kika. Hi, Orcus. Come here. You want to say hi? Come here. Come here, Orcus. Hi. Oh, this is the little guy that was making noise just a second over there. This is Orcus, named after you know who. Hi. Hi, Kika. Hi. Oh, you're gonna purr? Okay. Why don't you sit here with me? Yeah, so anyhow, back to the thing. So there's the 3 core books. There's the 3rd core book is a collection of scenarios, which is a collection of the first 5 scenarios that you can download for free. And then there are 3 supplements, sort of a hex crawling one, an epic character one, and then an animal companions supplement. And then there's 4 books of magic based on 4 classical Western elements, air, earth, fire, and water, that you can add in. There's a lot of stuff, but you can start out super simple. Just download the first or any of the free standalone pamphlet adventures, the scenarios, and it includes the rules, so you can get started right away for nothing. Okay, so anyhow, that said, there's a lot, and so I'm gonna start out. Oh, bye. I'm going to start out with the core rulebook. So let's flip over here. And this is the Micro Chapbook RPG Deluxe Core Rulebook. Ultra simple rules for solo role-playing in a grimdark world designed by Noah Patterson. This chapbook, most of these chapbooks are just in like the last year. And you can find all of them on DriveThruRPG. I'll go ahead and link to the collection of the Micro Chapbook RPGs. But there's a bunch of other stuff, roll and write games and things that you can check out that has been published by them. So check all of those things out. Pretty much everything else is free, but these deluxe rule books are like $2 or something like that. And each of the deluxe books has this, stop, don't buy this book, at least not yet. The basic rules for the Micro Chapbook RPG system can be downloaded for free in any Micro Chapbook through DriveThruRPG. Each standalone chapbook, this is all stuff I already said, but each chapbook is standalone and includes the complete rules for you to play the game. With that in mind, this deluxe edition core rulebook also contains all of the rules you need to play the game plus a few additions. You'll notice subtle differences here and there, but overall, the game is the same one you've come to know, and differences are noted in bold or with a gameplay note. Even with the subtle differences, this book is completely compatible with any and all chapbook scenarios. In fact, this book includes an original chapbook scenario and adventure module to get you started. After that, you can download any number of the free products in the Micro Chapbook line for further scenarios and adventures. In the core book, there's Tomb of the Necrolord and The Haunting of Gilroy Tavern. In the Game Master's Guide, there's Pelican Peak and Watertide Caverns, and those follow on to each other. And then there's the mini module, which is a separate thing that tacks on to Scenario 1 in the scenario collections. There are 4 that are in the deluxe core rulebooks that aren't separate. Anyhow, yeah, you get it. I'm going to go ahead and start out in the deluxe, and then we're going to skip to the Game Master's Guide for some world building, and then we're going to come back. So let's start out with section 1. What is a Micro Chapbook RPG? The Micro Chapbook RPG system is an ultra-simple role-playing system that can be played solo or with a traditional GM if you so wish. The main game focuses on solitaire gameplay, starring a single foolhardy hero. It uses randomly generated dungeon scenarios to make each game session a little different. This book also includes a pre-made adventure module. The universe for this game is brutal, unforgiving, and dark. It takes notes from such classics as Dungeon Quest and Deathtrap Dungeon. Expect to die, and die often. What do I need to play? In order to play Micro Chapbook RPG, you will need to gather the following easy-to-find items. 2 6-sided dice, a sheet or notepad of graph paper or a game mat with a grid or just a sheet of paper, a character sheet or note paper, a pencil with a good eraser, and these rules or any standalone chapbook scenario, extra scenarios and modules if you want, optionally, the Micro Chapbook RPG game supplements, which are also optional, that add on extra features and things. Like animal companions, sort of a ongoing hex crawl kind of thing, and then epic levels and epic character species and careers and stuff that you can add on to make things crazier. So actually, what I've got my hipster PDA, a pen and pencil, my clipboard, and then over here I've got 3 6-sided die ready to go. Gameplay basics. During gameplay, you almost always roll 1d6, trying to score equal to or lower than your stat score. If your character is proficient in the stat being tested, roll 2 dice and take the better result of the 2. 1 always succeeds and a 6 always fails. This mechanic is used for all tasks, including attacking, avoiding traps, unlocking doors, and most everything else. The only time this is different is when you roll for damage, whether dealing weapon damage or taking damage from a monster or a trap. Some damage scores may ask you to roll a 1d3. When you see 1d3, it means you roll a single d6 and have the results rounding up. Character creation. Character creation is completed in 5 simple steps. Determine the 4 stat scores. Choose a character class. Choose a character race. Determine your starting health and willpower, which are calculated stats based on your other ones. Roll for gold and purchase items. Each step is explained in further detail in the following sections. Character statistics. Your character has 4 main statistics. Strength, ST, used for melee attacks and breaking down doors, etc. Dexterity, DE, used for ranged attacks and avoiding some traps. Wits, WI, used for disarming traps and picking locks. Charisma, CH, used for increasing your willpower and showing your bravery. During character creation, you are granted 7 points to assign between the 4 stats as you see fit. No stat can have a score lower than 1 or higher than 4 during this step, but these may be altered later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to get out a note card for myself. And we don't know anything else about this character, but we're going to go ahead. Let's write down strength, dexterity, wits, charisma. Now, there are actually character sheets that you can print out. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to use my hipster PDA, my little note cards. So we can assign 7 points, no stat lower than a 1. So we could do 1. What kind of character do we want? I feel like strength and dexterity are things that I've got to have. What spread should I use? I mean, we're going to die often, so let's start out with 2 strength, 3 dexterity, 1 wits, 1 charisma. So 2, 3, 1, 1 for now. So I'm kind of thinking like a mostly ranged fighter that's not too smart and not too brave. Which is why they're always ranged, because they're not very brave, right? Character classes. There are 4 character classes to choose from. There's some epic classes in one of the supplements, so there are additional ones. And you can create your own. We'll see that in a second. Each one will make you proficient in 1 stat. Fighters are adept at hand-to-hand combat and strength-based tests. They are proficient in strength. Now, remember, proficiency means you get to roll 2 dice. So, to munchkin this, you'd kind of want to do, like I could do proficiency in strength so that I get 2 dice to beat 2, whereas in dexterity I need to beat a 3. It seems like splitting your highest stat from your character class is actually maybe a winning scenario. But at the same time, if I'm proficient in dexterity, that means I get 2 chances to equal or get lower than a 3. What should I do? I'm just going to roll a die. Low is fighter, high is ranger. Okay, I'm a ranger. Fighters are adept at hand-to-hand combat and strength-based tests. They're proficient in strength. Rangers are adept at long-range combat and dexterity-based tests. They are proficient in dexterity. Wizards are adept at solving puzzles, traps, and wits-based tests. They are proficient in wits. Bards are adept at holding onto their willpower and bravery. They are proficient in charisma. Crafting your own class. If none of the given classes appeal to you, feel free to craft one of your own. To do this is simple. Think of any class you'd want to play as. What is their background, history, and skills? What proficiency would they have? Write in the class name and the stat proficiency on your sheet. You know, this would lend itself, honestly, this would lend itself to a classless, a professionless game. It's basically narrative. You're just asking which thing is your character proficient at. Strength, dexterity, wits, or charisma. And then the rest is, you can make it up. So honestly, you could do this without classes. So character races, ancestries. There are 4 character races to choose from. This definitely doubles down on classes and race instead of professions and ancestry. It's definitely going for that old school kind of thing. There are 4 character races to choose from. Each one will grant you a +1 bonus to 1 stat. Humans are made of sturdy stock and are willing to fight to the end. They receive +1 in strength. Halfling's small size makes them fast and sneaky. They receive a +1 in dexterity. Dwarves are wise, spending much of their lives studying the ancient ways. They receive +1 in wits. That is different. So a dwarf is actually the ideal wizard character. How weird. Elves are a mystical race who never show fear in any situation and are skilled smooth talkers. They receive +1 charisma. Yeah, weird. Okay. That's really surprising. So elves are bards, dwarves are wizards, halflings are rangers, and humans are fighters. Crafting your own races. If none of the given races appeal to you, feel free to craft one of your own. To do this is simple. Think of any race you want to play, and what is their background, history, and skills. What stat bonus would they have? Write the race and name on your sheet. Well, let's just double down on dex. Let's go halfling, which means we get a +1 in dex, which makes it 4 now. Health and willpower. Now, these are the calculated stats. So your health and willpower are determined by your current stats. Your health is the total sum of your strength plus your dexterity plus 20, plus 10 for a challenge. So health is strength and dexterity 26. And then willpower, your will is the total sum of your wits plus charisma plus 20 plus 10 for a challenge. So 22 or 12. You're now getting close to finishing your character. All that's left is to roll up your starting gold and purchase weapons, armor, and other items. Roll 2d6 to determine your starting gold. Okay? So let's go to Dice Focus. Let's roll 2d6. So 7. We've got 7 gold. So there's weapons, but there's also items. So we've got all these weapons, ranged weapons, and then armor and items. Magic cap is +3 wits. No, will. Interesting. Okay, so anyhow, let's go back to weapons. Weapons have a damage rating and a cost in gold coins. And we have 7 to spend. I feel like I kind of have to go for a rock sling because I can't really afford a lot else. 1d3. Or I could go for the longbow for 6 gold, which would only leave me 1 gold left. So in the armor section, armor and items, armor grants the wearer a boost to their health, will, or both. Other items, such as food and potions, can be used to restore lost health and will. All items are consumable. They can be used at any point in the game, even during battle. Okay. So bread crust and ale are 1 gold each, which would leave me 5, which is not enough for the light crossbow. So I could go short bow. But if I'm going for short bow, well, it's +1. But maybe I should have a... So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so what I'm thinking is I'm gonna go with a short sword. So that's 1d3 melee, and I'm gonna go with a rock sling, which is 1d3 range, and then I'm going to get from the armor and items. I'm gonna get bread crust, 1d3 health, and then ale, 1d3 willpower. Okay, and then that's all of my 7 gold. So I've got a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, and health and willpower restorative. So let's go with that. Okay, now, the next sections of the core rulebook are sort of about generating rules on the fly. I mean, rooms and dungeons on the fly. One of the core things about this that's really interesting is that you can really just sort of do endless dungeons by rolling and creating your own scenarios. So you don't need to use the scenarios that have already been created. You can create your own and sort of just generate them like an oracle table on. So what's the next room? Is the door locked? Is it unlocked? That sort of stuff. And you just keep going through it. Now, I'm going to skip that for now. And I'm going to move over to the Micro Chapbook RPG Deluxe Game Master's Guide. Most of it is similar, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip to 6, Building a World, and go from there. Okay, so Building a World is section 6 of the Game Master's Deluxe Rulebook. As a game master, it's up to you to create a living, breathing world for the players to act in. Even more importantly, you will want to craft a story within the world, something engaging to get players interested and excited about playing. On the following pages are a few charts. Each one will build upon each other to help you quickly craft a game world on the fly for any game session. You can simply choose from the items on each chart or simply roll a 1d6 for each. Each one will add flavor to the game. So the first thing we're going to roll, and this is like world building in Ironsworn, so I'm going to start a new sheet, and we're going to start with a climate, and this is our world. So let's roll to see what our climate is. That's a 5. So we are in a frozen northern tundra. Okay, so Ironsworn it is then. Now, the next one is civilization. And let's roll on that and see what we get. And we got a 4. So that is barbaric. Was there a text description? Yeah, there is. Okay. So we'll write the text description out later. The next one is government. So let's roll on that really quickly. What kind of governments do we have here? 2, dictatorship. Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry, I didn't switch back. So dictatorship. Single person rules, having wrested all power from the others in the land. The next thing is populous. So let's see what we get for that. Growing. And again, I forgot to switch back. So we got growing. A moderate size of populace seeking new people semi-frequent. Okay. Actually, I'm going to read through these in a second. So let's just go ahead. So now magic. What is the state of magic in this random world that we're rolling. 6, magic abounds. So 6, magic abounds. And next is the mood. What mood do we have? 3, hungry. And next, okay, so an example of the combined charts above may be climate, plane, civilization, villages, government, no government, populace, healthy, magic, some magic, mood, calm. And then you combine the text versions of those. This land is a fertile, grassy plain, etc., etc. And you can see how you can get many combinations of world building from these tools. No matter what you roll up, be creative and have fun. So let's go ahead and really quickly, let's scroll back and read the narrative of what we've got. And so this is our world. Our world is deathly cold, and this land is home to only the worst of predators. Scattered tribes of wild men and women vie for resources and control, and violence favors discussion. A single person rules over these barbaric tribes, having wrested all power from the others in the land. A moderate size of populace makes seeking new people semi-frequent, so there's always people around. Well, I mean, it's pretty frequent that we run into people, and there's new settlements and things all over the place. And magic abounds. Every single person uses magic in everyday life. It is so commonplace, most don't even consider it magic anymore. It's just technology. It's just your iPhones. So it's a bunch of barbarians with iPhones. And the masses seem wanting and hungry for something, be it food, coin, or others. Everybody's grasping. So we've got this frozen northern tundra-like place where it's filled with barbaric people, sort of under the thumb of a single dictatorial ruler, but the population is growing and expanding, and they've all got magic, and they're all hungry for something. This sounds like a powder keg. This is like, there's going to be a revolution is what there's going to be. That's what's going to happen. Now, the next section is creating quests. If you're building your own adventure, the next step is to think of some quests. Additionally, you'll want to create a quest hub, which is a place where the players can go for more quests. The following pages feature tables for you to use. And so I'm going to be generating within this world we just created, I'm going to be creating a quest hub and then a quest giver based on these rules. And that's going to be our our core, at least our core for now, place that we're going to be in. So this is our quest hub. Let's find out where our adventures really start. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this and roll on Quest Hub. Whoa. It's a 6. A manor house. A well-reputed manor house is the place where the requests come. Okay. And what's the next detail? And our quest giver. Who gives us our quests at this manor? 4. A wise woman. A woman some consider a witch gives out quests. So we rolled manor house. A well-reputed manor house is the place where all quest requests come. That's kind of a little tongue twister there. And then we rolled that the quest giver is a wise woman. A woman who some consider a witch gives out the quests. Now, the next tables are quest types and quest items. Hey, what are you doing? Hi, you're making a lot of noise. What? Hi. Oh, big boy. Come and sit in my lap. You're going to make noise? What are you making all that noise for? let's go ahead. I was gonna skip this, but let's go ahead and roll. And this is gonna be like an extra layer on top of the adventure. So this is at the end of. I'm gonna go through a scenario, and then there's also gonna be this quest that's on top of it. So let's go ahead and roll and see what kind of quest we're gonna get. So that was a 3. So it's going to be a rescue. Okay, so it's a rescue. Someone has been kidnapped and needs to be rescued. The GM may choose who it is or roll on the rescue person's table to see who it is. The person is being held captive by a dungeon boss. Or the GM can choose to hide the person in a special room in the dungeon. And so the next thing to do is the rescue quest person. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll on that and see what we get. We are to rescue a local wise man or woman worth 2d6 plus 5 gold. Are we rescuing the wise woman that gives the quests? I think that's it. Okay, that's actually what we're gonna do. So it's the quest giver. That's really cool. And then further on in the Game Master's Guide, there's building a dungeon, and you can use a scenario, or you can randomly generate them, or you can just select and pre-make a dungeon. So you can totally do this on the fly. That's one of the really cool things about this, is that you can just sit down and make a dungeon from nothing, except for the tables, and then make your own tables too. So you could create different kinds of stuff. So as a solo, you can just sort of sit down super quick and generate, and then do as many rooms as you want until you're done, right? However much time you have to play. So it could be really sized specifically to whatever you're interested in. Okay, so we're going to skip that, and we're going to go back to the core rulebook. So even though I'm going to go through the programmed adventures, I'm going to go ahead and read through this information on generating rooms, monsters, and combat and all that, so that we both have it in mind. Also the cat, so the cat has it in mind as well. Hi. So generating rooms. Begin the game by choosing a random square on the graph paper and generating the first room in the dungeon entrance. To generate a room, roll 2d6. The number rolled is the number of squares in the room. These can be drawn in any way, shape, or form, so long as they are orthogonally connected. Next, roll 1d3, 1d6 divided by 2 rounded up. This is the number of new doors added in the room, in addition to any door you just used. Draw small rectangles to represent the doors along any single square's edge to designate an exit. Each time you move through a door, you will generate a new room in this manner. The dungeon entrance doesn't contain monsters. In the example to the left, the player rolled 2 dice. One came up 6 and the other 4 for a total of 10. They then built a room of 10 squares as so. Next, they rolled 1 die. The result was 6. Divide that in half, that's 3, so 3 doors. The player then drew in 3 smaller rectangles to designate where the doors in the room are located. Finally, the player marks the first room with an E to show that it is the entrance exit of the dungeon. A player may backtrack at any time to the entrance if the dungeon gets too hard. However, they don't earn the extra gold bonus for killing the boss, if they've skipped killing the boss. Gameplay note. In the regular Micro Chapbooks, the rules instruct the player to only roll 1 die for the room size. This book says to use 2. 2 dice simply offer more options, and it is up to you as the player to decide whether to roll 1 or 2 dice. I just suggest making it consistent through a single dungeon run. Section 12, Doorways. When you leave the dungeon entrance, or any room in the dungeon once it has been cleared of monsters, you will choose 1 door in the room to move through. Before moving through, however, you will need to make a door roll. Roll 1d6 on the door chart provided in the scenario. Some scenarios will add new door results, but there are 4 absolute basic door options that could occur. Unlocked, The door is unlocked and you may move through it freely without stopping. Stuck, the door appears to be stuck. Make a strength check to get through. If you fail, you may lose 1 will to re-roll and try again. Locked, the door is locked. Make a wits check to pick the lock. If you fail, you may lose 1 will to re-roll and try again. Trapped, the door has a trap attached to it. You must make a wits check to disarm it and move through. If you fail, take 1d3 damage, but still move through. Gameplay note. Once a door has been moved through, shade the doorway in black to show that you no longer have to roll when using that door. This just makes tracking easier. If there are multiple doors in the room, you can choose to attempt one door. If you fail, you can choose a different one. Oh, interesting. Retrying any stuck or locked door always requires a will loss. You must always make an attempt on a trapped door once you've rolled it up, as the trap catches you unawares and you are attempting to go through. Room types. Each newly generated room you enter also has a room type that will make it slightly different from other rooms. Upon entering a room, roll 1d6 on the scenario's room type chart. Each type will have a lettered code for you to write inside the room to remind you of what it is. Types include things like dirt or stone floors, water, or even crypts and torture chambers. Some room types only add flavor to the story, but most will either include a trap, an obstacle, or a die roll modifier, usually +1, for one stat that makes things harder for you. Monsters. Every room has monsters. After entering any room and determining its type, roll 1d6 on the scenario's monster chart to generate the monsters in the room. Roll once to determine the monster type. Roll a second time to determine the number of that monsters that appears in the room. Each monster has a max number that can appear in a room. Even if you roll higher, only the max number will appear, and no more can appear than the number of squares in a room. Ahaha. Monsters also have a health damage, H damage, willpower damage, W damage, and life force, LF. And the instant you run into any monsters, combat begins. Combat in the Micro Chapbook RPG system is extremely simple and is completed in 3 easy steps. Bravery, to see how brave you are, like whether it's a morale check. Ranged combat, if able, make a ranged attack against the monsters now. And melee combat, you must make a melee attack. Make a melee attack now. Even if you're at ranged combat? Oh, that's interesting. That's strange wording. So if I'm in a room that, in order to do a ranged combat, I have to be in a room of a certain size. So rooms of unusual size. So I make a ranged attack and then I make a melee attack. So you really only get your ranged combat attack once? Start over from the top and repeat them all. Interesting. How weird. It seems like you should make a ranged or a melee combat. Interesting. Yeah, that's bizarre. So in order to do ranged combat, what you do is you check your bravery each round, you make your ranged attack, and then you rush in and do a melee attack, and then somehow you rush out and then make another ranged attack? Really weird. Okay, that's wacky to me. So bravery, the sight of any monster, be it large or small, can invoke the deepest fear in even the bravest of warriors. That's bravest or warriors, it says there. So that's a typo. During the bravery step, make a charisma check. If you pass, gain 1 willpower. If you fail, you will lose will according to the monster's will damage. Usually you have to roll a die to see how much. If your will ever reaches 0, all rolls take a +1 modifier to the die result, as your character is losing hope in their ability to succeed in their quest. A natural roll of 1 still always succeeds, despite this or any other modifier. Will mods stack with room mods. Oh. Even if you have 0 will, always make the bravery check to see if you will earn a will back. Ranged combat. If, and only if, the current room is 4 squares or larger, you may make a ranged attack. To make a ranged attack, you must have a ranged weapon. Roll a dexterity stat check. If you succeed at the check, apply weapon damage to the monster's life force, usually by rolling. Extra damage after a monster is defeated can't roll over to other monsters in the room. You target a single monster with the attack. Melee combat. During melee combat, you must make a melee attack using a strength check. If you succeed, apply the weapon's damage to the monster's LF, usually by rolling. Similarly, damage can't roll over to multiple enemies. However, if you fail, one monster in the room deals damage to you. Roll the monster's H damage and apply it to your health rating. If it reaches 0, you die. Running away. After all steps of combat, you can elect to run away by making a charisma check. If you fail, one monster in the room deals damage and another round of combat begins. If you pass, choose any door in the room to escape through. If it is a doorway you haven't explored yet, roll on the doorway chart. If it is stuck or locked and you fail the roll, one monster in the room deals damage and combat resumes. If you escape, add a number to the room and record what monsters were left behind on a sheet of paper. They will be there if you return. Treasure rolls. After you've cleared a room of all monsters, roll 1d6. If you get a 1 through a 5, you earn that much gold. Add it to your gold rating on the character sheet. If you roll a 6, roll on the items chart in the section on armor and items, and each item is assigned a number in that table. If you roll that number, you find the item. If you roll a 1 on the items chart, you find nothing. No soup for you. And then boss monsters. Each dungeon scenario has its own boss marked with an asterisk on the monster chart. The boss will not appear until you've encountered all the other monsters on the chart at least once. Additionally, the boss will only appear in specific rooms as designated by the scenario. If you roll the boss when it can't appear, re-roll. Once it's defeated, the game ends. Backtracking. At any point in the dungeon, you may work your way backwards and return to rooms you already visited. If you ran away from a room, the monsters you left will still be there. If you left the room empty, roll 1d6. On a roll of 6, new monsters appear. Roll for monsters as normal. Once you've defeated the monsters, make a treasure roll -2 to see if the monsters were carrying any. If the result is 0, you get no gold. You can't find items as the room has already been searched once. Leveling up. After defeating a boss, count up the number of rooms you explored. Earn 1 gold for each room. If you did not defeat the boss, you don't get the bonus. In between dungeons, you may spend 100 gold to add +1 to one stat, 50 gold for an easier game. No stat can be higher than 5. You may buy new equipment, and you may have only 1 melee and 1 ranged weapon at a time.